Hello students, in the last class I have explained about Coulomb's law in vector form, and I would like to make a small revision before going to the next concept. So here I have expressed the Coulomb's law in the vector form. For example, if I take Q1 and Q2 similar charges, then if they are separated by distance r, and if I am representing the distance from Q1 to Q2 in the form of vector as a R12, and if I am expressing the distance from Q2 to Q1 in terms of vector R21, so I can express F12. F12 means it is a force exerted on Q1 by Q2. Similarly, F21 is the force on Q2 by Q1. So I can express like this: F12 equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square R21 cap. If you are taking F12, here you should take R21, because R21, you should remember here, R21 is in the direction of F12. So I am expressing F12 as a vector. So you should give the direction. So F12 direction is given by R21. That is the reason R21 cap should be a unit vector. When you multiply with this factor, then F12 will turns into vector quantity. In the same way, F21 can be expressed like this: F21 is in this direction. In the same direction, R12 is there. So you have to multiply R12 cap. And if you are not expressing this vector form, not in terms of unit vector, so instead of unit vector you can take vector. If you take vector, if you are multiplying vector instead of unit vector, then you have to write r. It doesn't means force is inversely proportional to cube of the distance between the two charges. It is ultimately force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance only. But here I have written r cube because I have expressed this f21 in terms of vector. I have multiplied r12 vector with this quantity. If I multiply r12, then it becomes r cube. It is just because according to the definition of unit vector, suppose if you are replacing r12 this cap, so in place of r12 cap, and you can write like this: r12 cap equal to r21 upon r21. So this r21 without any arrow mark on its head, r21, it is nothing but magnitude, which is equals to small r. So when you replace this r12 cap with this term, then in place of r12 you should take r21 vector divided by r21. In that case, this f21 will turns into 1 upon 4 epsilon naught q1 q2 upon r cube into r12. So don't get confused here. So r12 ಇಲ್ಲಿ cap ಬರೆಯೋದಾದ್ರೆ r12 cap equal to r12 vector divided by r12. R12 or R21. So these are all magnitude must be equal to small r. Same formula I am using. So here I have written R21 equal to R21 vector divided by R21. You can write it for R12 also. R12 cap equal to R12 vector divided by R12. So in the same way, if you express F12 and F21, you will come to know that R12 and R21 both are opposite. Hence, one must be negative, another must be positive. In that case, F12 equal to minus F21. This is according to Newton's third law. So with this small revision, I would like to continue my portion. And here also I am showing some important points which are already discussed in the last class, as this Coulomb's law is following inverse square law and unit of charge. And the unit of charge, simple ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳೋದಾದ್ರೆ, in SI system the unit of charge is coulomb, and in CGS system, we are using two types of units. So one is ESU of charge, another one is the EMU of charge. So ESU of charge and EMU of charge both are units of charge in CGS system. But ESU is a unit of charge when you are taking electrostatic system, and EMU of charge is a unit of charge in CGS system when you are taking electromagnetic system. So CGS electromagnetic has a EMU of charge, and CGS electrostatic system has a ESU of charge. These are the two important units. You can call it as a stat coulomb also. Stat coulomb is again a unit of charge in CGS system, and it is for electrostatic system. If you are using electromagnetic system, you can call it as absolute coulomb. Okay, absolute coulomb is nothing but EMU of charge. Stat coulomb is nothing but ESU of charge. Both are units of charge in CGS system for two different systems. One is electrostatic, another one is electromagnetic. So after this, we have discussed about one absolute coulomb equal to 10 coulomb and one coulomb of charge equal to 3 into 10 to the power of 9 stat coulomb. So you should remember all this. And another one is this capital K equal to ER equal to epsilon upon epsilon naught. I call it as epsilon. Epsilon R equal to epsilon upon epsilon naught, where epsilon is relative permittivity, epsilon is permittivity in the medium, epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space. If you take the ratio of permittivity of medium to the permittivity of the free space, then it should be equals to relative permittivity, which is nothing but dielectric constant. And this dielectric constant can be expressed in terms of force also, like this: V upon Fm. So P equal to ER equal to epsilon upon epsilon naught, and which is also equals to Fv upon Fm, because Fv is a force of attraction or repulsion in vacuum, and Fm is the force of attraction or repulsion in the medium. And dielectric constant has no unit. It's a dimensionless quantity. So now we go to continuous charge distribution. So first of all, what is point charge and what is the meaning of this continuous charge distribution? If you understand both, then we can easily understand the charge density for different scenario. So first of all, what is point charge? I give you a small example. If you are seeing a bus very near to you, a couple of feet away from you, then bus looks very big. But if you are seeing the same bus some 50 to 60 feet away from you, the bus looks very small. Bus looks very small because you are far away from the bus. The distance between bus and you is very large compared to the dimension of the bus. In the same way, a charge can be treated as a point charge when the dimension of the charged body is a very small compared to the distance of the charged body from you or from any given point. ಒಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನಿಂದ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಬಹಳ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಲಾರ್ಜ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಕಂಪೇರಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ dimension of charged body. For example, the distance is 1 meter, and whereas the dimension of the charged body is 0.05 centimeter, then the dimension is very small compared to the distance. Distance is more than 100 centimeter, whereas the dimension of charged body is very small. In that case, that charged body can be treated as point charge. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನದ ಯಾವ ಫ್ರೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಇದು ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆಫ್ closely spaced charge is said to be continuous charge distribution. When the charges are packed very closely, when they are tightly packed, when there is no space between the two charged bodies, or when there is no space between two charges, then the charge distribution can be treated as continuous charge distribution. And question is, continuous charge distribution ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಎರಡು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ಗಳ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಏನು ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟು ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ಗಳು ಅಕ್ಯುಪೈ ಮಾಡಿದಾವೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಏನ್ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಇದೆ? ಸೊ ದ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಡೆನ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1 ಮೀಟರ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ 1 ಸೆಂಟಿಮೀಟರ್ ಲೆಂತ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ಗಳು ಇದಾವೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಈಸಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ continuous charge distribution concept is very useful to find out the density of the charge for any surface, for any length, for any volume. For that reason only we have to assume that there is no space between two charges. Charges are so packed, so closely spaced that there is no gap between two charges. In such case, the distribution of charge can be taken as continuous. Let's move on to line or linear charge density lambda. It's a very simple definition. Line or linear charge density is nothing but how much charge is distributed over the length. Length means it may be straight line, or it may be curved surface, it may be a ring whose circumference is having certain value, or it may be an edge of a cuboid, like that. So line ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ straight line ಇರಬೇಕಂತೇನಿಲ್ಲ. So charges can be distributed over the curved surface, or it can be distributed on the circumference of the ring. So ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಲೈನ್ ಆರ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಡೆನ್ಸಿಟಿಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ಬಹುದು. Formula is very simple. Linear or line charge density lambda must be equal to total charge divided by total length of the body. So total charge is in coulomb, total length is in meter, hence the SI system, the unit of linear charge density is coulomb per meter. So the definition is very simple. Linear charge density is the charge per unit length. ಇನ್ನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, ಟೋಟಲ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಲೆಂತ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಲೆಂತ್. ಅದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಕರಿತೀರಿ, ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಲೆಂತ್. So if I take one length, one straight line, along that straight line some charges are distributed like this. Then if I take a small section whose length is dl, and for this small section dq is the total charge. In that case, the linear charge density, suppose if the q is the total charge distributed over the entire length of the body, then L is the length of the body. Then total charge is how much? Q divided by small l, which gives a lambda, linear charge density. In case if the length is infinite ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ನೀವು ಈ q ಅನ್ನು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಮೆಥಡ್ ಇದೆ. The method is very simple. If this length is infinite, then you have to take a small section. Whose length is dl. On that section dq is the charge distributed. Then according to the same formula, lambda is equal to q by l, you have to use dq in place of q and dl in place of l. Just write lambda equal to dq upon dl. Then what is the total charge here? dq equal to lambda into dl, isn't it? Then total charge can be calculated. dq is the charge only for this small section dl, but length is infinite. Then you have to add this dq infinite number of times to find out the total charge. So how to add this dq infinite number of times? Very simple it is. We are using integration. So this is a symbol of integration. L means you are integrating, you are adding dq infinite number of times over the entire length. That is the reason here I have written L. So integration over small l means you are adding dq infinite number of times for the entire length. So here you have to write dq, but I am not writing dq directly. I am writing dq Here lambda equal to dq upon dl. So dq equal to lambda into dl. So lambda into dl I have written here. So this formula gives the total charge if the length of the charge body is infinite. If it is a finite value, you can use this formula. Lambda is equal to q by l, where q is the total charge. If length is infinite, then q can be calculated using this formula. It is that simple. So now we go to surface charge density sigma. Surface charge density is again you are calculating what is the total charge distributed over the surface. This is nothing but surface charge density. The formula is very simple. Surface charge density is charge per unit area. Linear charge density is the charge per unit length. So here you are taking the same sentence with a little bit modification. Surface charge density is the charge per unit area. Charge per unit area means the total charge divided by total area. So total charge is in coulomb, total area is in meter square. Hence in SI system, the unit of surface charge density sigma equal to C coulombs per square meter square, coulombs per meter square. And if I take area, in that area these are the charges distributed like that. And if this area is finite value ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ರಿ, ಈ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ರದ್ದು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಎಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಈ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಇದೆ ಕ್ಯೂ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ರಿ. In that case you can easily calculate surface charge density is charge per unit length, the total charge divided by the total area. Q is the total charge divided by S is the total area. Sigma equal to Q by S. That's it. You will get the surface charge density. But if this area is infinite, in that case it is we have to calculate the total charge by different method. Here we have to take one small section whose area is ds. On this small area we have to assume that dq is the charge distributed. Then use the simple formula, use the same formula, sigma equal to q by s, sigma equal to dq upon ds. In place of q I have taken dq, in place of s I have taken ds. dq equal to sigma into ds. So dq is the charge expressed in terms of density and area. So dq must be equal to sigma into ds. Then to get the total charge, this is the density for this small section ds. If this area is infinite, then you have to add this dq infinite number of times. For that reason we have to take the integration tool over the entire surface. Yes, here you have to write dq but in terms of density and area. So dq equal to sigma into ds. So I have written sigma into ds. This integration of sigma into ds gives the total charge. Then the total sigma can be written as q by s, and where q is the total charge. And we can easily calculate the volume charge density rho. Volume charge density means you are calculating the total charge distributed over the entire volume. So volume charge density, just like a surface charge density is charge per unit area, in the same way volume charge density is the charge per unit volume. In SI system the unit is coulombs per meter cube, because the total charge is in coulomb and total volume is in meter cube. So SI system, the unit of volume charge density is coulombs per meter cube. And if the total charge is a finite value, then you can easily use this formula, total charge divided by total volume. So rho equal to q by v, where q is the total charge, v is the total volume. So this formula is useful only when there is a finite charge over the volume v. If the total charge is infinite, in that case we can calculate the total charge using the method like this. We have to take a small section of this volume and whose small section is dV, and in that dV small section dQ is the total charge. So in place of Q write dQ, in place of V you have to write dV. So sigma equal to dQ upon dV gives the charge density for this small volume, small section. Then dQ equal to rho into dV, which gives the total charge in terms of density and volume. And the total charge on the volume can be calculated using this formula Q equal to sigma, Q equal to integration over the volume V. Here you have to write dQ equal to sigma into dV. So use this formula to calculate the total charge, and if you know the value of volume, then rho equal to Q by V gives the volume charge density. So in this way, these are the three different charge density: linear charge density, surface charge density, and volume charge density. So you should remember the formula for each concept and the SI unit. Now we go to electric field. So first of all, I will show you one small diagram. So here I am taking two charges. One is plus Q, another one is plus Q naught, and I call this charge as a source charge, and I call this Q naught as. Now first of all, what is field? Electric field ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದೊಂದು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಇದೆ, ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್. ಈ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಸುತ್ತಲೂ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಏರಿಯಾ ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಕರಿತೀರಿ, that region or space surrounding this charge is called field. Since it is producing the electric force, so ಈ field ನಾವು ಏನು ಕರಿಬಹುದು, electric field ಅಂತ ಕರಿಬಹುದು. So what is electric field? Electric field is nothing but it is the space around the charge. It is the space around the charge in which this charge is going to experience the force due to this source charge. For example, if I take a surface like this, space in ಈ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಕ್ಯೂ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತಲು ಈ ರೀತಿ ಒಂದು ಡಾಟೆಡ್ ಲೈನ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಏನ್ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಕರಿತೀನಿ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಕ್ಯೂ ಚಾರ್ಜ್. ಇದು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಕ್ಯೂ ನಾಟ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಕ್ಯೂ ನಾಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾನು ಈ ರೀಜನ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಗೆಟ್ ರಿಪೆಲ್ಡ್. ಎರಡು ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಇದಾವೆ, ಇದು ರಿಪೆಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತದೆ. ಯಾವಾಗ ರಿಪೆಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಟೇಕ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ inside this space. When you are outside this space, then there is no repulsion. Andre this charge is not going to experience any kind of force. This way we can define electric field as space around the charge in which this charge is going to experience electrostatic force. Electrostatic force yaak kariತೀನಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, if you are taking a test charge as a positive, then this charge will be get repelled by this source charge. If this charge is negative, then it is get attracted towards the source charge. In this way, it is going to experience either attractive or repulsive force depending upon the type of charge you are taking. So in this way, I am defining electric field as a space around the source charge in which this charge is going to experience electrostatic force. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಸುತ್ತಲೂ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಗೆ ನಾವು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ಈ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಈ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಅಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ರಿಪಲ್ಸಿವ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ, ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ನಾವು electric field strength or electric field intensity, it can be defined in another way also. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, electric field or electric strength of electric field can be defined as electrostatic force per unit test charge. So electric field can be defined in another way also. So electric field is nothing but electric force experienced by a unit positive charge. When this unit positive charge is taking very small. So in this way also we can define electric field. There, ಒಂದು ಸ್ಮಾಲೆಸ್ಟ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಈ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಚಾರ್ಜರ್ ಹತ್ತಿರ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಆರ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಆಲ್ ಆರ್ ಸೇಮ್. It is nothing but it is the electric force only experienced by a unit test charge. When this unit test charge is taken very small. ಇದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬರಿಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ mathematically E equal to F. Definition secondary electric field is nothing but electrostatic force. When this small test charge is taken very small. So ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು mathematically ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬರಿಬಹುದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ electric field is equal to electric force. When this test charge delta Q is very small, limit delta Q tends to 0. See this wordings and mathematical expression. And sentence is when the small test charge is very small. So here we have written limit delta Q tends to 0, which means that when this test charge is very small. For example, if I take 99 number, if you go on reducing it 98, 95, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92 till you get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 1 is the smallest value. For example, in this example, 1 is smallest value. If I reduce this 1 further, it becomes 0. So it should not be made equal to 0. 0 ಗಿಂತಲೂ ಕೊನೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಯಾವುದು 1 ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ 0 ಆಗುವಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇರುವ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಪ್ರಿವಿಯಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಯಾವ್ದಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡೆಲ್ಟಾ ಕ್ಯೂ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು. ಸೊ ಮ್ಯಾಥಮೆಟಿಕಲಿ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ರಿಟನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಿಸ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಟು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ವೆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್. ಸೊ ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಡೆಲ್ಟಾ ಕ್ಯೂ ಟೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಟು 0. Limit delta Q tends to 0 means delta Q should be taken very small just before 0 value. So adana heng bardidri electric field equal to F divided by delta Q with limit delta Q tends to 0, which means electric field is nothing but electrostatic force experienced by this unit positive charge when this unit positive charge is taken very small value. So in this way we can define the electric field, and here we can write this expression by removing this limit. Limit ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ರೆ mathematical expression ಬಿಟ್ರೆ we can simply write like this equal to F upon Q naught. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಲ್ಟಾ Q ಅಂತ ತಗೋಬಾರದು. ಸೊ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಡೆಲ್ಟಾ Q ತಗೋಬೇಕು. So limit in ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ you have to simply take Q naught. Q naught is nothing but the smallest unit test charge. So equal to F upon Q naught. If this Q naught is taken equals to 1, Q naught is taken equals to 1 ಅಂತ unit value 1 ಅಂತ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ so ಅವಾಗ electric field becomes equals to electric force. ಅಂದ್ರೆ electric field is nothing but electric force experienced by this unit positive charge. So we can write this electric field with this expression also. This expression also electric field equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square into R cap. So it is almost similar to your electrostatic force between two charges. Suppose if there are two charges like Q1 and Q2, the distance between two charges are, how you write the electric force using the Coulomb's law? F equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square. In the same way, electric field is nothing but electric force only when you take this Q naught as unit positive charge. When its value is equals to 1, then if this Q1 is taken as Q, Q2 is taken as 1. And how you write the electrostatic force? Force F equal to 1 upon 4 epsilon naught Q, Q1 Q2. In place of Q1 I have to take 2 multiplied by Q naught value is 1. Q multiplied by 1. Q multiplied by 1 means again Q only divided by R square. It is as good as electrostatic force between two charges. This is a source charge, this is discharge. So electric field equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon R square multiplied by R cap, because I am expressing this electric field in terms of vector notation. In vector notation, it is simply E equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. So this is an expression of electrostatic force only, but electrostatic force for two charges. One is source charge Q, another one is Q naught, whose value is 1, and the distance between the two charges is R. In that case, it should be 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q into 1 divided by R square. So in this way, electric field is nothing but electric force only. When a unit charge is experienced electrostatic force due to this source charge. In this way, the concept of electric field can be understood um, by this method. And you can take this source charge as a negative. In that case, this charge will get attracted towards this source charge. This is the direction of this attractive force. This is the direction of repulsive force. So with this, I'm ending this video session. So in the next class, we will continue our this portion.